What if I told you that the banana you had for breakfast this morning could be the reason your knees hurt when you climb the stairs? Or that those healthy grapes you snack on might actually be stealing your muscle strength? If you're over 60 and you've been wondering why your joints ache more than they used to, why getting out of bed feels harder each morning, or why your legs feel weaker despite eating what you think are healthy foods, you need to hear this. Look, I know how frustrating it is. You've spent decades trying to eat right, choosing fruit over cookies, making what you thought were smart choices. But here's what your doctor probably never told you: after 60, your body processes certain foods completely differently. And some of the fruits sitting in your kitchen right now could be quietly working against you, creating inflammation that's making your joint pain worse and your muscles weaker. The difference between feeling strong and independent versus struggling with everyday tasks like walking to the mailbox or playing with your grandchildren, it might come down to 3 simple food swaps. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly which 3 popular fruits could be sabotaging your strength and mobility. More importantly, I'll share 3 science-backed alternatives that clinical research proves can actually help rebuild your muscle strength, reduce joint inflammation, and get you moving with confidence again. Before we jump in, do me a favor and drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. I absolutely love connecting with our elderly healthcare family around the world. And if you want to keep getting real, evidence-based health information that can actually change how you feel every day, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. Alright, let's dive in. Let's start with the first fruit that might shock you. Watermelon. I know, it seems so innocent, doesn't it? Sweet, refreshing, perfect for those hot summer days. You've probably been told it's mostly water, so how could it possibly be harmful? Well, here's what the researchers at Harvard Health discovered that will change how you think about this popular fruit forever. Watermelon has a glycemic index between 72 and 80. Now, let me put that in perspective for you. White bread has a glycemic index of 75. That means watermelon can spike your blood sugar faster than eating a slice of white bread. Think about that for a moment. When you're over 60, this isn't just about blood sugar numbers on a chart. This is about what's happening inside your body every single time you eat a few slices of watermelon. Your blood sugar shoots up like a rocket, and your pancreas scrambles to produce enough insulin to bring it back down. But here's the problem: after 60, your insulin response becomes sluggish. It's like your body's emergency response team is getting older and slower too. So what happens when your blood sugar spikes and your insulin can't keep up? Your body goes into what scientists call an inflammatory state. It starts releasing compounds called cytokines, and these little troublemakers have one mission: they travel straight to your joints. Your knees, your ankles, your hips, even your fingers. They settle in and create inflammation that makes your joints stiff, painful, and harder to move. Now, here's where it gets really concerning. A major study published just a few years ago in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed older adults who were eating high glycemic fruits like watermelon daily. What they found was eye-opening. These seniors showed decreased vascular elasticity in their legs. In simple terms, the blood vessels in their lower limbs became stiffer and less flexible. Their circulation got worse. And when your circulation is compromised, your muscles don't get the oxygen and nutrients they need to stay strong. The researchers also measured inflammatory markers in these participants' blood, and guess what? The levels were significantly higher, especially in markers that affect circulation to the lower limbs. That's your legs, your feet, the very foundation you depend on to stay mobile and independent. But wait, there's more to this watermelon story that most people never consider. You've probably heard that watermelon is great for hydration because it's over 90% water. Sounds good, right? Wrong. For seniors, this can actually work against you in a surprising way. When you eat a lot of watermelon, yes, you're getting water, but you're also diluting essential electrolytes in your body. Electrolytes like potassium and magnesium that your muscles absolutely need to function properly. When these get diluted, what happens? Your muscles start cramping. You might wake up in the middle of the night with painful leg cramps. You might feel weakness in your calves or thighs that you can't explain. I've talked to so many seniors who tell me they experience these mysterious muscle cramps, especially at night, and they have no idea why. They're drinking plenty of water, they're trying to eat healthy, but those cramps keep coming back. Many times, when we look at their diet, we find they're eating watermelon regularly, thinking they're doing something good for their body. Here's what most people don't understand about aging and electrolyte balance. When you're younger, your kidneys are fantastic at maintaining the right balance of these essential minerals. But as you age, your kidney function naturally declines. Not dramatically, but enough that you become more sensitive to foods that can throw off this delicate balance. Watermelon, with its high water content and blood sugar spiking properties, can be the perfect storm for creating the kind of electrolyte imbalance that leads to muscle weakness and cramping. And here's another piece of the puzzle that researchers are just beginning to understand. When your blood sugar spikes repeatedly from foods like watermelon, it doesn't just affect your joints and muscles in the moment. It creates what scientists call glycemic memory. Your body starts to remember these inflammatory episodes, and over time, the inflammation becomes chronic. It's like your body gets stuck in an inflammatory state that makes healing harder and joint pain more persistent. The really frustrating part is that watermelon has been marketed as this perfect health food. It's natural. It's mostly water. It's full of vitamins. And yes, it does contain some beneficial nutrients like lycopene and vitamin C. But for seniors dealing with joint pain and muscle weakness, the blood sugar spike and electrolyte disruption can completely overshadow any potential benefits. Think about it this way. If someone told you that eating a particular food might make your joint pain worse, make you feel weaker, and potentially contribute to muscle cramps that wake you up at night, would you keep eating it just because it tastes good on a hot day? Of course not. Now, if you thought watermelon was surprising, wait until you hear about our next fruit. This one is probably sitting in your kitchen right now, and you might even think of it as the perfect healthy snack. But what I'm about to tell you might completely change how you look at this seemingly innocent fruit. The second fruit might hit even closer to home because I guarantee most of you have this in your kitchen right now. Bananas. But not just any bananas. I'm talking about those overripe ones with the brown spots that you've been told are sweeter and easier to digest. Dorotheus, a 68-year-old woman from my community who came to me absolutely frustrated and at her wit's end. Dorothy was doing everything she thought was right for her health. She was eating what she considered a perfect healthy breakfast every single morning: oatmeal, a banana, and a cup of coffee. She was proud of herself for choosing fruit over pastries, for making what she believed were smart, nutritious choices. But Dorothy was suffering. Every night, like clockwork, she'd wake up around 2 or 3 a.m. with excruciating leg cramps that would have her grabbing her calf muscle and crying out in pain. During the day, she noticed her knees were getting stiffer and stiffer. Simple things like getting up from her favorite chair or walking up the stairs to her bedroom were becoming increasingly difficult and painful. She went to her doctor, who ran some basic tests and told her it was just part of getting older. "It's arthritis," he said. "Take some ibuprofen and try to stay active." But Dorothy knew something wasn't right. She'd always been active, always eaten well, and this level of pain and stiffness felt different, more intense than what she expected from normal aging. When Dorothy and I sat down to really examine her daily routine, something interesting emerged. Those bananas she was so proud of eating every morning. They weren't the firm, yellow bananas you might picture. Dorothy had always been taught that the brown-spotted, soft, mushy bananas were actually better for you. "They're sweeter," she'd say, "and my mother always told me they were easier to digest." Here's what Dorothy didn't know, and what most people don't understand about bananas. The ripeness of that banana completely changes what it does to your body. The Harvard School of Public Health has done extensive research on this, and what they discovered will probably surprise you as much as it did Dorothy. A green, unripe banana has a glycemic index of about 30. That's actually quite good. It's in the low category, meaning it won't spike your blood sugar dramatically. But watch what happens as that banana ripens. Those brown spots that Dorothy thought were a sign of sweetness and digestibility, they're actually a warning sign. As bananas ripen, their starch converts to sugar. By the time you see those brown spots, that banana's glycemic index has jumped from 30 all the way up to 62. In some cases, overripe bananas can hit a glycemic index of 65 or even higher. To put this in perspective, that's approaching the level of white sugar. Those brown spots aren't just indicating sweetness. They're indicating sugar concentration that's higher than many processed snacks sitting in the candy aisle. Now, here's where it gets really concerning for seniors. The Glycemic Index Foundation has published data showing that overripe bananas can spike your blood sugar within 20 minutes of eating them. 20 minutes. That's faster than some candy bars. For Dorothy, eating that overripe banana every morning was like starting her day with a sugar bomb. Her blood sugar would shoot up, her insulin would struggle to keep up, and her body would go into that same inflammatory state we talked about with watermelon. But it was happening every single day, first thing in the morning, setting the tone for how her body would handle inflammation for the rest of the day. When you're over 60 and your insulin response is naturally slower, this daily blood sugar roller coaster creates what researchers call inflammatory cascades. It's like setting off a chain reaction of inflammation that travels through your bloodstream and settles into your joints. Your knees, your hips, your ankles, anywhere you have joint tissue becomes a target for this inflammatory response. But here's where the banana story gets even more complex, and this is something that took me years to fully understand. Bananas are famous for their potassium content. Everyone knows that. Eat a banana for potassium, we've all heard that advice. And yes, bananas do contain potassium. But what most people don't realize is that the relationship between potassium and magnesium in your body is absolutely critical, especially as you age. Your muscles need both potassium and magnesium to function properly. They work together like dance partners. But overripe bananas flood your system with potassium while providing very little magnesium. This creates an imbalance that most doctors never think to check for, but it's one of the leading unidentified causes of leg cramps in seniors. Think about what happens when you have too much potassium relative to magnesium. Your muscle fibers get confused signals. They don't know when to contract and when to relax properly. This is exactly what was happening to Dorothy every night. That overripe banana she ate for breakfast was creating an electrolyte imbalance that would manifest hours later as those brutal leg cramps that were ruining her sleep. But the problems don't stop there. Studies have shown that this potassium-magnesium imbalance can contribute to that gradual feeling of weakness and instability that so many people experience after age 65. You might notice that your legs don't feel as steady as they used to. You might feel less confident walking on uneven surfaces, or you might need to hold on to the railing more tightly when going upstairs. Dorothy certainly noticed this. She told me that she'd started avoiding activities she used to enjoy because she didn't trust her legs anymore. She'd stopped gardening because she was afraid of losing her balance when bending down. She'd stopped taking walks in her neighborhood because she worried about stumbling. Her world was getting smaller, and she thought it was just inevitable aging. But here's the remarkable part of Dorothy's story. Once we identified that those overripe bananas were likely contributing to her problems, she made a simple change. Instead of the mushy, brown-spotted bananas, she switched to firmer, yellow bananas with just a hint of green. Not fully green, which can be hard to digest, but not overripe either. Within 2 weeks, Dorothy noticed her nighttime leg cramps were becoming less frequent. Within a month, they were almost completely gone. Her joint stiffness started improving too. She began to feel more stable on her feet, more confident in her movements. Was the banana the only factor? Probably not. But it was a significant one that had been flying under the radar, disguised as a healthy choice. This is what's so insidious about some of these foods. They're not obviously bad like donuts or soda. They're fruits that we've been taught are healthy, but the devil is in the details of how they affect your aging body. The tragedy is that Dorothy had been suffering unnecessarily for months, maybe even years, because no one had ever explained to her how the ripeness of a banana could affect her joint health and muscle function. Her doctor saw her symptoms and immediately attributed them to normal aging. But there was nothing normal about the level of pain and dysfunction she was experiencing. Now, I've told you about watermelon and overripe bananas, but here's the third fruit that might shock you the most. This one is actually marketed as a superfood. You'll see it in health magazines, nutrition articles, even recommended by some doctors. But for seniors dealing with joint pain and muscle weakness, this popular fruit might be doing more harm than good. Now let's talk about the third fruit, and this one might be the most surprising of all because it's been marketed as a superfood for years. Red grapes. You've probably seen them featured in articles about heart health, antioxidants, and anti-aging. You might even have a bowl of them sitting on your counter right now, thinking you're making a smart, healthy choice when you reach for a handful as an afternoon snack. But here's what the marketing materials don't tell you about red grapes, especially when it comes to how they affect your body after age 60. Red grapes are loaded with concentrated fructose and glucose. Their glycemic index ranges from 43 to 59, which might not sound too bad at first glance. But here's the critical detail that changes everything: they hit your bloodstream like a freight train because they contain almost no fiber or fat to slow down the absorption. Think about this for a moment. When you eat an apple, you're getting fiber from the skin and flesh that helps slow down how quickly the sugars enter your bloodstream. When you eat nuts, the healthy fats act like a buffer, creating a more gradual release of any natural sugars. But red grapes? They're like little sugar bombs with nothing to slow them down. When you pop a handful of red grapes in your mouth, those sugars are absorbed so quickly that your blood sugar can spike within 15 to 20 minutes. For a senior whose insulin response is already compromised, this creates an immediate inflammatory response. Your body goes into crisis mode, trying to deal with this sudden flood of sugar, and guess where that inflammation ends up? Right in your joints. Now, here's where the research gets really concerning. The Journal of Geriatric Medicine published a groundbreaking study that followed seniors over several months, tracking their blood sugar patterns and measuring their muscle mass. What they discovered was shocking. Seniors who frequently experienced blood sugar fluctuations throughout the day lost muscle mass 27% faster than those who maintained stable glucose levels. 27% faster. Let that sink in for a moment. That's not a small difference. That's the difference between maintaining your strength and independence versus gradually becoming weaker and more dependent on others for basic activities. And here's the kicker: red grapes, eaten as snacks throughout the day, were identified as one of the major contributors to these blood sugar fluctuations. People thought they were being healthy, reaching for grapes instead of cookies or chips, but they were unknowingly accelerating their muscle loss. But wait, there's an even more insidious problem with red grapes that most people never consider. What happens to those grapes sitting in your refrigerator? You buy them, you wash them, you store them in that plastic bag or container, and over the next week or so, you gradually eat them. Seems harmless enough, right? Wrong. Here's what food scientists have discovered about grape storage that will probably change how you think about this fruit forever. When red grapes are stored in your refrigerator, especially for more than a few days, their skins begin to oxidize. This oxidation process produces compounds called aldehydes. Now, aldehydes aren't immediately toxic. You're not going to eat some grapes and collapse. But here's what happens in your body, especially if you're a senior with a more sensitive digestive system. These aldehydes can cause microvessel irritation throughout your digestive tract. It's subtle, it's gradual, but it's significant. When your intestinal walls become irritated, even at a microscopic level, your body's ability to absorb nutrients properly gets compromised. This is called malabsorption, and it's already a concern for many seniors whose digestive systems naturally become less efficient with age. When you add grape-induced microvessel irritation on top of that, you're creating a perfect storm for nutritional deficiencies. Think about what this means in practical terms. You might be eating what you think is a healthy diet, taking your vitamins, doing everything right, but if your intestinal walls are chronically irritated from foods like stored red grapes, you're not actually absorbing those nutrients effectively. Your body might be starving for the very nutrients it needs to maintain strong muscles and healthy joints, even though you think you're providing them. And here's where it gets really frustrating for seniors dealing with joint issues. That inflammatory response from grape consumption doesn't just happen and disappear. It accumulates. Day after day, snack after snack, your body is dealing with these blood sugar spikes and the resulting inflammation. Over time, this chronic inflammation makes your morning stiffness worse. It contributes to that heavy, achy feeling in your legs that so many seniors experience, especially after sitting for a while. You know that feeling when you've been sitting in your favorite chair watching TV or reading, and when you go to stand up, your legs feel stiff and heavy? You might think it's just from sitting too long, but chronic inflammation from foods like red grapes can make this sensation much worse and more persistent. The really tragic part is that many seniors have been told that grapes are good for them because of the resveratrol content. Yes, red grapes do contain resveratrol, which has antioxidant properties. But here's what the grape industry doesn't want you to know: you'd have to eat pounds of grapes to get a therapeutically meaningful amount of resveratrol. Meanwhile, you're flooding your system with sugar and potentially creating chronic inflammation that far outweighs any potential benefits from that tiny amount of resveratrol. It's like taking a vitamin pill while simultaneously drinking poison. The potential benefit is completely overshadowed by the harm you're causing. And let's talk about portion sizes for a moment, because this is where many seniors get into trouble with grapes. When someone tells you to eat fruit for your health, what do you picture? Maybe an apple, maybe a banana, maybe an orange. These are naturally portion controlled. But grapes? They're designed to be eaten by the handful. It's way too easy to sit down with a bowl of grapes and mindlessly consume what amounts to a massive sugar load while thinking you're being healthy. I've seen seniors who will carefully measure out their medications, who will count calories, who will read labels on packaged foods, but then they'll sit down with a large bowl of grapes and eat the equivalent sugar content of several candy bars while congratulating themselves on choosing fruit over dessert. The blood sugar roller coaster that results from this kind of grape consumption is particularly damaging for seniors because your body's recovery mechanisms aren't as robust as they used to be. When you were younger, your body could handle these sugar spikes and bounce back relatively quickly. But after 60, each inflammatory episode leaves your body a little more worn down, a little less resilient, a little more prone to chronic inflammation. This is why some seniors find that their joint pain seems to be getting worse for no apparent reason. They're not doing anything obviously harmful. They're not eating junk food. They're choosing fruit over processed snacks. But they're unknowingly creating a pattern of inflammation that's making their arthritis worse, their muscle weakness more pronounced, and their overall quality of life more compromised. Now that you understand what these three fruits are doing to your body, you're probably wondering what you should eat instead. And that's exactly what I want to share with you next. Because the good news is that there are three fruits that clinical research has proven can actually help rebuild your strength, reduce inflammation, and get you feeling more confident and mobile again. So what should you eat instead? Let me introduce you to the first fruit that can actually help rebuild your strength and restore your confidence in movement. Blueberries. And I'm not talking about some trendy superfood marketing claim here. I'm talking about hard science from some of the most prestigious research institutions in the world. A groundbreaking study published in 2023 from King's College London followed seniors for 12 weeks and discovered something remarkable. Participants who consumed just 75 blueberries daily, that's about half a cup, showed significant improvements in executive function, faster reaction times, and better blood vessel function. These weren't young athletes or people in perfect health. These were ordinary seniors, many of them dealing with the same mobility and joint issues you might be experiencing right now. But here's what makes this study so compelling. The improvements weren't subtle. They weren't the kind of marginal changes that researchers get excited about but don't translate to real life. These were meaningful, measurable improvements that participants could actually feel in their daily lives. Now, let me explain what's actually happening in your body when you eat blueberries, because this is where the science gets really fascinating. Blueberries contain powerful compounds called anthocyanins. These are the same pigments that give blueberries their deep blue color, but they're so much more than just natural food coloring. Anthocyanins are unique among antioxidants because they can cross the blood-brain barrier. Think of the blood-brain barrier as a security system that protects your brain from potentially harmful substances. Most compounds can't get through this barrier, but anthocyanins have a special molecular structure that allows them to pass through and directly interact with your brain tissue. Once these anthocyanins reach your brain, they do something remarkable. They improve communication between your brain and your muscles, particularly the muscles in your legs. As we age, this communication pathway naturally degrades. The signals from your brain saying, lift your foot, balance yourself, or coordinate this movement, become weaker and less precise. This is why many seniors start to feel unsteady or less confident in their movements. But anthocyanins help restore these neural pathways. They literally help rebuild the connection between your nervous system and your muscle fibers. It's like upgrading the wiring in your house from old, corroded cables to brand new, high-efficiency ones. Research from the University of North Carolina has documented these improvements in hundreds of seniors who consume blueberries regularly. Their study showed that seniors eating blueberries daily experienced a 17% improvement in balance and significant increases in their ability to walk continuously without fatigue. 17% might not sound like a huge number, but in terms of quality of life for a senior, it's enormous. That's the difference between feeling confident enough to take a walk around the block versus being afraid to leave your house. That's the difference between being able to play with your grandchildren versus watching from a chair because you're worried about falling. The researchers found that the anthocyanins in blueberries don't just work on the brain-muscle connection. They also improve circulation throughout your body, including to your extremities. Better circulation means your muscles get more oxygen and nutrients, which helps them stay strong and recover more quickly from activity. Here's another incredible benefit that emerged from the research. Seniors eating blueberries regularly showed improvements in what scientists call gait stability. Gait is how you walk, and stability refers to how steady and controlled your movements are. Many seniors develop a shuffling gait or become hesitant in their steps because their brain-muscle coordination has deteriorated. But the anthocyanins in blueberries help restore that smooth, confident walking pattern that you might remember from your younger years. Now, here's the practical beauty of this research. You don't need fresh, expensive blueberries to get these benefits. Frozen blueberries contain the same levels of anthocyanins as fresh ones, sometimes even higher levels because they're frozen at peak ripeness. This means you can get the therapeutic benefits year-round without worrying about seasonal availability or high costs. The therapeutic dose that showed benefits in the clinical studies is just half a cup daily. That's about 75 individual blueberries. You can add them to oatmeal, blend them into a smoothie, eat them as a snack, or even just take a handful with your morning medications. The key is consistency. The benefits build up over time, so you need to make blueberries a regular part of your daily routine. But here's what really excites me about blueberry research. Unlike medications that often have side effects or interactions, blueberries only seem to make everything better. Participants in the studies didn't just see improvements in balance and muscle coordination. They also showed better memory function, improved mood, and even better sleep quality. Blueberries are fantastic, and I could talk about them all day, but our next fruit has some of the most impressive research I've ever seen for muscle recovery and strength building in seniors. The second fruit that can transform your strength and mobility is pomegranates. Now, I know what you're thinking, pomegranates seem complicated to eat and expensive to buy. But when you hear what the research shows, you'll understand why this fruit is worth the effort. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed adults over 65 who consumed 500 milligrams of pomegranate polyphenol daily for just 8 weeks. The results were remarkable. These seniors experienced significant improvements in circulation and a notable decrease in inflammatory markers, especially in their legs and feet. We're talking about the exact areas where most seniors struggle with pain, stiffness, and poor circulation. Here's what makes pomegranates so special. They contain unique compounds called punicalagins, antioxidants that are 2 to 3 times more potent than those found in red wine or green tea. But here's the really exciting part, these compounds actually help your body produce nitric oxide, which relaxes your blood vessels and improves blood flow directly to your muscles. Think about what this means. While those red grapes we talked about earlier are creating inflammation and restricting blood flow, pomegranates are doing the exact opposite. They're opening up your blood vessels, increasing circulation, and delivering more oxygen and nutrients to the muscles that need it most. Recent research shows pomegranate consumption can help maintain bone density and reduce the risk of fractures, which are critical concerns for seniors. The natural nitrates in pomegranates convert to nitric oxide in your body, supporting healthy circulation without any of the side effects you might get from blood pressure medications or circulation drugs. And here's the beautiful contrast with what we discussed earlier. Unlike those blood sugar spikes from red grapes, pomegranates have a glycemic index of only 54 and contain natural compounds that actually help stabilize your blood glucose levels. This makes them perfect for seniors who are managing both joint health and energy levels. You can get these benefits from pomegranate juice, but make sure it's 100% juice with no added sugars. Even better, if you can manage the fresh fruit, just half a pomegranate or about a third of a cup of the seeds provides the therapeutic dose shown in the studies. And our final superfruit might be the most powerful of all for rebuilding muscle strength. The third and perhaps most powerful fruit for rebuilding muscle strength is one you might not expect. Avocados. Now, I know technically avocados are a fruit, even though we often think of them as a vegetable. A landmark 2020 study published in the Journal of Nutrition followed seniors who ate 1 avocado daily for 12 weeks. The results were remarkable. Participants experienced less knee pain, increased leg strength during moderate activity, and fewer nighttime leg cramps. These weren't minor improvements, these were life-changing differences that participants could feel every day. Here's the science behind why avocados are so powerful. They contain monounsaturated fats, particularly oleic acid, which help reduce chronic inflammation in key joints like your ankles, hips, and knees. But here's what's really impressive, avocados have a glycemic index of only 10, meaning they won't spike your blood sugar at all. Remember those overripe bananas we talked about earlier that were causing electrolyte imbalances and leg cramps? Well, research shows avocados actually contain more potassium than bananas, but without the blood sugar roller coaster. This potassium helps regulate electrolyte balance in your muscle cells, preventing those painful leg cramps that wake you up at night. Penn State University research has shown that avocado compounds can help your body absorb other beneficial nutrients more effectively, maximizing the benefits of your entire diet. And studies indicate that the vitamin K in avocados is essential for bone mineralization and helps lower the risk of fractures, making them perfect for seniors concerned about bone health alongside joint comfort. The best part? You only need half to one whole avocado daily to get these benefits. Add it to your salad, spread it on whole grain toast, or just eat it with a spoon. Now, I know this information might feel overwhelming, so let's talk about what this really means for you. I understand that learning your favorite fruits might be contributing to your discomfort can feel discouraging. Many of my viewers tell me they feel frustrated when they discover they've been unknowingly making their joint pain worse, despite trying to eat healthy. But here's the empowering truth: your body has an incredible ability to heal and strengthen itself when given the right nutrients. These simple changes aren't about giving up foods you love, they're about choosing foods that love you back and support your body's natural healing processes. The research I've shared today represents millions of dollars in clinical studies and thousands of seniors who've experienced real improvements. You have the power to start feeling stronger and more confident in your movements, beginning with your very next meal. Remember, aging gracefully isn't about accepting decline. It's about making informed choices that help you maintain your independence, strength, and vitality. Every positive change you make is an investment in your quality of life and your ability to enjoy the activities you love. To recap what we've covered today: avoid watermelon, overripe bananas, and red grapes if you're dealing with joint pain, and instead focus on blueberries for circulation, pomegranates for muscle recovery, and avocados for overall joint health and strength. I'm curious, which of these fruits surprised you the most? And have you noticed any connection between your diet and your joint comfort levels? Share your experience in the comments below. Our elderly healthcare community learns so much from each other's stories. If this video opened your eyes to new possibilities for managing joint health naturally, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Elderly Healthcare. We're building a community of informed seniors who refuse to just accept decline as inevitable. Thank you for investing this time in your health and well-being. Remember, every day is a new opportunity to feel stronger, move better, and age gracefully. I'll see you in the next video.